Good afternoon and welcome to the Hoosier Huddle podcast. I'm Sammy Jacobs. Along with me is T.J. Inman, and we're here to talk about Indiana basketball. It is a big week for Indiana sports this week. You have basketball opening up Big Ten play at Minnesota tomorrow night at 7 p.m. on Big Ten Network. They play on Saturday in Indianapolis at 2 p.m. against number 6 Louisville. And then, of course, you have the Indiana football team playing in the Big Ten title game against the number 1 team in the country, Ohio State, number 1 versus number 2 in Indianapolis at Lucas Oil. So it is a huge day on Saturday. Hopefully people could do the double dip, Louisville and the football game all in one day. That would be an epic day. Volleyball kicks off their NCAA tournament run at home against Toledo on Thursday, and their second round game, if they win, would be on Friday. So lots to talk about, but let's talk some hoops. It's been forever since we talked hoops. Indiana's hot starts this season, TJ. They're 7-0. They come in 22nd in the AP poll. Really flying under the radar with football success, even though Aaron DeVries really doesn't need to fly under the cover of night right now. But it has been a long runway, and I think the style of play, and I mean, starting 7-0 and being ranked is you can't really start your tenure any better.
Absolutely not. I think the style of play that you mentioned, they share the ball, they shoot a lot of threes, and they get up and down the court when they can. It's not just a fast break at all costs, but they do play up tempo if they can see opportunities to do so. It's a very likable group, easy group to root for, and yeah, the results have been really good. Outside of let's say a rough 20 minutes in one game, and then a kind of lackluster. You put that graphic up? Two subpar performances, right? Subpar performances, not games where it was, we almost lost, but it was, hey, that didn't look as clean or as smooth as the previous games had. There were some concerns about shooting. There were concerns about ball movement as the ball
just overall energy and getting up
a little bit. Yep. Concerns about defense, whether or not IU could keep opponents in front of them without fouling. So are those issues fixed? I think that the shooting slump issue, and I don't know if that's the right term. I think it's streaky would be the right term. This team is going to go through stretches during games where they will have 0 for 8 stretches. They'll come down, they'll get a few good looks, they'll have to force a few late shot clock, and they'll get locked down and go on like a 4 or 5 minute drought because they miss 7 or 8 shots in a row. They're also going to have some stretches where they hit 7 out of 8 and go on a 16-2 run. So I think the streakiness, that is going to be a consistent theme throughout the Big Ten campaign. I don't have any doubts about that. When you rely on the perimeter shot as much as Indiana does, and they do not have kind of that easy button where it's, okay, things are not going great right now. The other team's got a run going against us. We're just going to dump it down in the post to Trace Jackson Davis and let him go to work and get us a bucket in the paint. Or we're going to dump it down to Omar Ballo and just have him back down his defender and get a little turnaround that he's either going to make or he's going to miss it, but we got an easy shot. This team doesn't have that. They don't have that easy button that they can hit when things aren't going great. They're going to have to continue running the offense And if they're missing their shots, you don't really have a way out of it other than keep shooting. So I think that issue is going to be a continuous theme. Sometimes it's going to look amazing, and sometimes there are going to be stretches where they're not shooting the ball well, and they don't look very good. The second issue is kind of is this team able to defend without fouling and keep guys in front of them? We don't know yet whether or not that is something they can consistently do against really good Big Ten teams. I kind of doubt it. I think it's fair to say that will be a red flag throughout the season when they go against really good athletes that can get downhill, get to the rim. I think this team will have a hard time keeping really good offensive teams outside of the paint. They don't have – I think Sam Alexis is a good rim protector, but he's not elite there. Reed Bailey is not one, and they don't have really anybody else that you would classify as a rim protector. So I do think that defending without fouling against good athletes is going to be a problem. What I have been impressed with, though, by Indiana's defense, and this is part effort and it's part scheme, I do think they're doing a really good job of forcing teams off of the three-point line, not giving up easy looks from three, and forcing them to take inefficient long twos. It was I guess Mike Woodson thought it was a feature of his offense to take mid-range jumpers, but you are looking to force teams into those shots. And IU's defense is doing a good job of funneling those offensive possessions for teams into those areas of inefficiency. Again, against really good athletes, I think what could happen is those teams just force the issue and keep driving. They don't take that trap. They don't take the bait. They just keep driving. We're going to see that might start tomorrow against Minnesota, but I don't think that's going to be the case. We'll preview that in a minute. But Louisville, that's going to be a huge test against their athletes to see if they fall for that. Louisville does a really good job of getting three-pointers up, getting good looks, but they can drive the basket really well. They do not fall into the trap of taking those inefficient long twos. It's layups or threes. So I think Louisville's going to be a really good test for that. So the big question is, are the issues fixed? I don't think they're fixed necessarily, but I have been impressed with how Indiana has worked around them against Kansas State. And I thought they played very well in that game. And then they played really well on Saturday against Bethune-Cookman. That was DeVries was worried about that game, right? His team's
it's a noon game. Yeah, it's a noon game.
A trap game.
Coming off a break.
Yep.
A trap game between two P4 games. No students in the crowd.
Yeah.
People are up late. No, I'm not saying they're out partying or whatever, but the players are supporting the football team and watching that game until late.
Yeah.
And celebrating a win over Purdue. But yeah, to come back off of a nice atmosphere game against Kansas State to go into a noon Saturday start, with the mostly empty arena.
Yep.
It was tough, and that was one of my issues with the week before. Was, man, the energy just doesn't look like it was there against Incarnate Word and Lindenwood, and you kind of hope that it was just the opponent. But yeah, they put. Let's talk about the Kansas State win. And you talked about this game encapsulated everything about streaky shooting and streaky offense.
Yeah.
Indiana started, 17-4, and then Kansas State came back. And then Indiana ended up blowing them out at the end. But I
Mhm.
mean, what an effort from IU there. It was, IU was favored by what, 7 points. They ended up
7.
winning. They ended up winning big. The game really never really was in doubt in the second half.
Right.
Um, but they played well, and they brought energy. I mean, you, we were worried about starting fast. You could not have started faster if you were IU in that game.
It was a great start, and it felt like, okay, this looks like the kind of game that Indiana is going to bury their opponent and roll to a 35-point win, um, which was a surprise because going in off of those two games against Incarnate Word and Lindenwood, it was, hey, let's see about this Kansas State game. They've got really good athletes. They've got a PJ Haggerty, a great scorer. How's Indiana going to match up with him? There were legitimate concerns about that game, and then they got put to bed super quick. I mean, the start that IU had, then you hit a lull, and Kansas State starts crawling back and crawling back, and it gets. I think they got the lead down to 2. I want to say, um, but it was close. Indiana then extends that lead at the start of the second half. I thought that was the real key point of that. Kansas State had taken a punch, had fought back, and it seemed like, okay, this can go one of two ways. IU can start the second half really well and bury them, or Kansas State can continue the momentum and make this a really tight game for 40 minutes. Indiana came out of the locker room and just pulled away again, and Kansas State never threatened after that.
Yeah.
And I think that the really impressive part of that game is that Tucker DeVries struggled to shoot the ball, never really got into rhythm. And Indiana was able to beat a quality, not a great, let's not make Kansas State more than they are, but a quality power conference opponent comfortably with one of those two main cogs having an off night. And I think that was a major positive. A lot of credit has to go to Connor Enright and Tayton Connerway for the way that they defended PJ Haggerty. Enright had him completely discombobulated and really made him look disinterested in that first half. Enright, I think, definitely bothered him. And Haggerty appeared to be content to just hang out on the perimeter. I don't know if it was physicality of Enright, if he had annoyed him, if Haggerty just wasn't feeling comfortable. Whatever the case, he was the opposite of his normal assertive self in that first half. He got going a little bit, ended up with 16, but it was very inefficient. And most of his points came by him just bulldozing into the lane and throwing it up and getting fouled. So I thought that Indiana's defense on Haggerty was a key to that one. I thought they did a good job battling on the glass. IU's not going to dominate teams rebounding, but they have to do a good enough job as a group to limit how badly they get beat rebounding wise against good teams. And they hung in there with Kansas State on the glass. I thought it was a really positive effort. The biggest thing for me, though, you limited a really good offensive player and you beat a solid team without having a good game for one of your stars. And that was a question mark we had going in, was what happens if Tucker DeVries and or Lamar Wilkerson don't play well against a good team? What does IU do? And they answered it against Kansas State and won comfortably. So that was positive. Moving to Saturday's game, I thought it was the balance that you show. The focus coming out, getting off to the good start, and putting the outcome of that game to bed within the first 5 minutes. That was great to see. Didn't mess around at all, right?
That was one, I was keeping an eye on football games for the site and switched over to basketball at what was tip at 12:02 or something.
Yep.
I switched over at 12:10 and it was like, oh, okay, so this one's over.
Yeah.
And that we talked a little bit about it before, but this was, to the issues against Incarnate Word and Lindenwood, you wanted to see how they would come back, avoid the hangover of the Kansas State win, avoid the turkey tiredness from Thanksgiving break and things like that. And then it's just a noon game on Saturday is one of those sleepy tip-offs in Bloomington. Unless you're even in Big Ten play, they're sleepy tip-offs. It takes a little bit to get going. It was good to see that that IU didn't have that. And you came out, you dominated, you got over 100 points. You hit the century mark again.
Yep.
And then you got Tucker DeVries plays well. Lamar Wilkerson does what he does, and then you see Nick Dorn at 14 points.
Yes.
You see those third and fourth pieces. Trent Sisley, who had 11 against Kansas State, had another 14. Here's Sam Alexis with 14. So against Kansas State, it was Reed Bailey, Tatum Connerway, and Lamar, who did damage. Now against Bethune-Cookman, you see Sisley, you see Sam Alexis, you see Nick Dorn take over that tertiary scoring role there, which is nice. It's going to be a different guy every night, which I think it could be that there could be a night that nobody's hitting. That's just the nature of this team. But it's nice to know that if one of your third or fourth scorers does not play well, there are other guys who could step up and get theirs as well. Now, would you love to have all 5 guys or 6 guys hitting on the same night? Yeah, that's when it gets fun. But when you could when there's only 3 or 4 guys hitting, it's nice to have 7 or 8 options to who can get a basket. It's not as you said, the Trace Jackson show where you're going to need 40 from him to eke out a win in Big Ten play. You could go get 10 or 12 points from somebody else and take it off. And I thought, one of the things, now you're starting to play a few more people. You got Nick Dorn back. Trent Sisley's taking on a bigger role than expected this year. And, one of my concerns was, especially with the shorter rotation and depth issues, Indiana plays very hard every game. How long can you just physically stand up to giving that 100% effort all the time when you're only playing 7 guys? Now, hopefully Josh Harris and other guys come back soon. December was circled by Coach DeVries, where you could get more guys back. So you got through November at 7-0. You're sitting at 22 in the country. They were 11th in net rank.
Yep.
So you set yourself up pretty well, and now you're going to start getting some more pieces back.
Yes.
And you have we talked about you could start fast in the Big Ten. You do have a couple hurdles with Louisville this Saturday, and then Kentucky in a couple weeks. But if you could start integrating those guys in, this team goes from being pretty thin to pretty deep pretty quickly. So let's talk about Big Ten play on tomorrow night. It still weirds me out that there's just 2 random Big Ten games in the middle of December, or at the beginning of December, and then you go back to it in January. So IU plays up in Minnesota. The Gophers are 4-4. The Barn, no matter how good or bad Minnesota is usually a tough place to play. You have the race court. It's just a tough place to play. But sorry, Sarah made a joke that popped up on my screen.
Typically
So
quite cold as well. Quite cold in there.
well, they could go stand outside in Bloomington, TJ. It's 24 degrees, so they could get used to it.
Yeah, I Minnesota I guess visiting Minnesota in early December is better than doing so in late January, I guess. Maybe. But
I guess it's 24 degrees and there's 4 inches of snow. If the barn is really that cold, maybe Coach DeVries needs to have outdoor practice this week.
yeah, reinstall the court on Kirkwood and have them go stand out there. So Minnesota, Nico Medved comes from Colorado State, former coach at Drake, actually, as Darian DeVries was. Only there for a year, but they're 100th as of Monday, 100th in Bart Torvik, 114th in Ken Palm. According to the advanced metrics, this is the second worst team in the Big Ten, right there with Rutgers. So on paper, this is a game that you really need to get. It's probably going to end up a quad 3 game.
It's a can't lose game. That's what it is. You can't lose this game. It's
kind of you're in a bit of a tough spot because of the 7-0 start.
Yep.
You do feel like, okay, we've taken care of business so far, and that's accurate. And this is sort of that last take care of business hurdle before getting an opportunity to play a top 10 team. The games against Minnesota and Penn State at home, Penn State's better than Minnesota, but it's a home game. Those two are a rare cannot lose or should not lose games in the Big Ten this year. It's a really, really good conference this season. The out-of-conference games have been very kind to the Big Ten. There's a lot of teams that look like they are very good. And the metrics are going to favor the Big Ten as the season progresses. You see that in college basketball when conferences have good early non-conference victories, it buoys the rest of the league. And that's what we're going to see throughout the season with the Big Ten. Indiana, you mentioned it, 11th in the net. That's an awesome starting point. Really, really good starting point. A game at Minnesota, number one, you want to win. And number two, given where they're at in the metrics, you want to get it done by 10 plus. That's something that is not going to hurt your metrics, but you just need to win the game, right? Get to 1-0 in Big Ten play. They're led by Cade Tyson, who's a transfer. He played a lot and was really good at Belmont. Transferred to North Carolina. Hopes were high, and he played 8 minutes a game. It was kind of an afterthought for North Carolina last season. Switches to Minnesota to play for Nico Medved in his first year there, and he's averaging 22 a game. They started 2-0 and then kind of got their first humbling as they took on Missouri, lost by 23. Doug Gottlieb's team, Green Bay, took them to overtime, which is a gigantic red flag. And they went.
Does he coach the whole game, or does he do a podcast if it goes into overtime?
Well, I think it would be beneficial for the team if he just coached maybe a one media timeout worth and then just left. Like that might help. But in this case, he was there for the whole game, and they still almost beat Minnesota.
Yeah.
So
they were Minnesota was down 2 starters that game, right?
Yes, and that's one of the subplots to watch. Down two guys, Robert Valhola and Chancey Willis. Valhola is a 6'9" kind of bruiser, really good rebounder, not particularly skilled, but does offer really good interior presence for them. Chancey Willis is a good slasher, good wing presence. So size for them, and they've both been out. They could come back for Wednesday. We don't know yet. Nico Medved's radio show starts tomorrow, Thursday. So after the Indiana game, but we don't have any updates yet on, as of this morning, what those guys are going to be availability-wise. So if they can go, Minnesota's a little bit of a different animal. If they cannot, they're down to like 7 rotation guys, so they become very thin. Kate Tyson leading them, Jalen Crocker-Johnson, 12.4 points a game, leads the team in rebounds at 9.1 rebounds per game. He'll be a physical test for Reed Bailey and Sam Alexis. Kind of again, like a 6'9", 6'10", like bruiser. They do not really do anything that should concern Indiana other than they get to the foul line a lot. They're 5th in free throw rate in the country. So they really focus on getting into the paint and getting to the foul line. That's obviously what IU's going to have to do. Minnesota averages 28 free throw attempts per game, and Indiana has been susceptible to getting in foul trouble. So that's one that Big Ten road game, who the heck knows how it's going to be officiated. If they're calling a lot of fouls, things get dicey for Indiana, particularly if Wilkerson or DeVries gets in foul trouble. So that's going to be Minnesota's game plan. Indiana's going to have to defend without fouling. Offensively, Minnesota does not defend the three very well, and that should be something that IU is able to take advantage of, right? We know how IU wants to play on offense. Minnesota struggles to defend the three. In theory, could be a good night for the Hoosiers from beyond the arc. And if it is, and if they stay out of foul trouble, you feel comfortable about IU getting out of there with the win.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot of complaints about the officiating are coming on the live thread this week.
Absolutely. That is a minus 1,000 are the odds on that occurring, yes.
Only 1,000? You might make a few pennies. Yeah. Let's talk about Saturday. There's a huge test coming up for IU. You got to get the win at Minnesota first, or else just kind of it takes the wind out of your sails. You mentioned that it takes the wind out of your sails on your start because you should go into this game 8-0. Ranked versus ranked matchup. It's a big day on Saturday.
Yeah.
What makes Louisville so good?
Number one, they have a good mix of a freshman, Mikal Brown, who's fantastic, and then Ryan Conwell, a veteran that IU fans will be very familiar with from Pike High School, went to Xavier, was a big target in the transfer portal after being at Indiana State. Big target in the transfer portal, chose Louisville. Indiana maybe was an option for him, maybe not, depending on who you believe. But essentially, IU ends up with Wilmar Wilkerson. Louisville ends up with Ryan Conwell. Okay, they're similar players. Both of them gunners that want to shoot it from the perimeter. Conwell a bit more of a rounded game in that he attacks the basket more. Wilkerson did that better on Saturday against Bethune-Cookman. But he's really good. They've got 6 players in the top 21 of Bart Torvik's player efficiency ratings for the ACC, 6 out of the top 21, and 3 of them are their starting backcourt. So really good guard play for Louisville. Again, it's that Conwell and Mikael Brown, and then the other one is Isaac McNeely. A really good trio. They've got athletic bigs, not big guys that they just throw it in the post to. Athletic bigs that can run the floor. They play at a high tempo, shoot a lot of three-pointers, get to the rim well when they drive. They don't have anything defensively that stands out in terms of metrics, but a solid defensive team, top 40 in the efficiency ratings, and a top 10 offense in efficiency. It's a high-octane team that plays a very fast tempo. They want to get up and down with their athletes. I would expect that Saturday, anything less than 53 pointers total attempted in that game would be a shock. Both teams want to shoot the three, and I see no reason to expect that won't be the case. Louisville, I think Pat Kelsey deserves a lot of credit for how quickly he's turned that around. I know that all the focus is going to be on the day for Indiana athletics, right? Yep. And there's going to be a ton of IU fans. There's going to be a lot of Louisville fans there too. That fan base really, really loves their basketball program right now. So I do not be surprised to see a lot of people walking around with the birds on their gear, hold the L up. There's going to be a lot of that there too. It should be an awesome atmosphere. In my preview, I compared it to what I hope is going to feel like an NCAA tournament regional game, where it's a Midwest regional Sweet 16 game. Like I hope that's what it feels like in Gainbridge. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And if IU can beat Minnesota, what you've done, you've gone into that game taking the pressure off. I mean, it sounds odd to say because it's Indiana basketball. You should not ever feel like you go into a game where, hey, if we get a win, awesome. If not, it's not a huge deal. That's not the mindset to go into it. But it is not a game where you have to go into it and say, we have got to get a win here. Because you've taken care of business against Marquette, against Kansas State, against your bye game opponents. You have taken a little bit of that edge off of this duo of Louisville and at Kentucky, which we'll talk about Kentucky later, but that game looks much more winnable than it did a month ago.
Yep.
Whereas this Louisville team, they beat Kentucky head-to-head, and they're playing much better than the Wildcats are. This is going to be a huge test for Indiana, but it is a team that IU at least – Louisville does not have some gigantic size advantage that they're just going to hammer IU on the glass all day.
Yeah.
So it's a interesting matchup of two teams that want to play a similar way, that both have good guard play. Indiana's the kind of underdog in this contest, but I would expect a raucous crowd for both sides. And it should just be a whole lot of fun for an early December game and kind of a joyous atmosphere in Indianapolis for IU fans.
Yeah, it should be. And then, Louisville plays at Arkansas on Wednesday as well at 7:15. So they do have another test. Arkansas is ranked 25th. They do have another test before they come play Indiana. But, yeah, Saturday is a day I think all IU fans were hoping for in terms of getting the football team to Indianapolis. And I mean, we talked about it before the season. If IU football could get to the Big Ten title game, December 6th is going to be a special day. You have, Indianapolis puts on events very, very well. And the Big Ten championship game is a great event. They have Fan Fest on Friday and Saturday. Georgia Street's all set up. The bars will be ready to go. There's a ton of alumni events. You have Big Red warm-up at 5 p.m. at the Convention Center as well. it's one of those days where if you could get to Indianapolis and get a ticket to both games, you go. And even if you can't get a ticket, that might be one, hey, let's drive up, park the car, and go find some place to sit and watch both games and just soak in the atmosphere. So it is a special day on Saturday, but IU does have to take care of business against Minnesota. That's first and foremost. You can't overlook it. You can't look at it. It is your Big Ten opener and a chance to, get a leg up in the conference and get a road win against a team you should beat on the road in Minnesota. And road wins in the Big Ten Conference are hard to come by. Anytime you can win a game on the road in the Big Ten is a resume booster. So, yeah, that does it for today's podcast over basketball. So Indiana versus Minnesota Wednesday at 7 p.m. on Big Ten Network. Then on Saturday, Indiana, Louisville on CBS in Indianapolis to kick off a huge day for IU sports in the Circle City. And then, of course, you could come back to HoosierHuddle.com. We have redone the website, TJ. I think it looks pretty sweet. It's modernized. Come check it out. And we'll have all your basketball, football, volleyball updates with their NCAA tournament run starting on Thursday. Women's hoops is, took a loss to Iowa State on over the weekend without Big Z, but they're rocking and rolling too. So keep coming back, subscribe, like, and we'll be back tomorrow to talk about Indiana football against Ohio State. 1 versus 2. It's going to be a huge opportunity.
Yes. Yep, that is going to be. You hesitate to put too much importance on that game because
it is both a meaningless game and not a meaningless game. It's an unnecessary game. Well, it is a money grab, and I won't be quiet about that. But for the fan bases, it's not meaningless. Indiana hasn't won. Look, they shared the regular season Big Ten title, and I think you need to claim that. And with how kind of unimportant these conference title games have become with the playoff, that it needs to be, hey, we want to share the regular season Big Ten. We went 12-0, 9-0, and same with Ohio State. That's what they should do too. But this group of Ohio State players haven't won a Big Ten title. Indiana hasn't won a Big Ten title since 1967. Indiana hasn't beaten Buckeye since 1988. There's a lot on the line. Even if it's like, oh, there's still bigger things to play for. You're playing, you probably have a bye locked up as Texas A&M lost on Friday. Do you really want to show all you have and put people potentially getting hurt and things like that? That's not the attitude of the fan bases, and that's not going to be the attitude of the coaches.
No.
Signetti has a lot to prove. He got stuffed in a locker last year by Ohio State and admittedly said that the moment was too big for them and adjusted. And, guess who's the final team on that list of, when he said Purdue sucks, but so does Michigan and Ohio State? Well, Ohio State's the last one standing. So, he's going to have a chip on their shoulder, and this very well may determine the Heisman Trophy winner.
Absolutely. And you say all of that, and it's all true. It's also a trip to the Rose Bowl on the line.
Yes.
And I understand the college football playoff and the Rose Bowl still matters. It's a college football quarterfinal game, but going to play in the Rose Bowl, not to play UCLA at the Rose Bowl, but to play in the actual Rose Bowl with the parade and New Year's Day and all of that as a college football quarterfinal game as the 1 seed, that matters.
Yeah.
That absolutely matters. Now, going to the Orange Bowl as the 3 seed or the Cotton Bowl as the 3 seed or whatever, that's awesome too. that's not some consolation prize, but going to the Rose Bowl, that may have lost its luster for Ohio State because they've done it so often. I don't know. I can't speak for them. I can tell you, as an IU fan, and I'm sure as an IU player, that matters.
Yeah, you want to play in the one day that turns that stadium into the most magical place on earth. That's not Disney World or Disneyland. So it matters. We'll have our full podcast tomorrow breaking it down. We have stories from SIG, players. We'll have our matchup to watch. TJ had the Know Your Opponent that's out today too. We'll have it all. And then getting buried all under this, it's early signing day for football tomorrow. We'll have a full breakdown of the class.
Drama-free for Indiana.
Yeah, so far drama-free. It should stay that way too.
Yep.
So National Signing Day, early signing period tomorrow. We'll have everything up. We're not doing individual player stories. We're going to put out 2 big stories and then put the player capsules in the forums as they come in. I don't know if they still use fax machines or whatever, but as they get telecommunicated in to Bloomington, we'll put those out as well. So keep coming back. Busy week with everything on the site as well. So thanks for listening.